Hey GigTow gang, this is Feral Cat with our latest installment of GigTow Rants. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about a subject that came up during one of the Gatriarchy chats that happened a few weeks ago. And one of the guests there asked a question that I really think didn't get as much focus as really merited. And that question was, how do feminists hold us back? And I'm going to go ahead and lay things out right now, at least from my perspective. To be quite honest, they don't. So why am I opposed to it then? Because it's not them as people or even their actions that hold me back. It's their philosophy and internalizing it that not only holds me back, but holds countless others back. And quite frankly, if they really, really, truly wanted empowered, strong women, they would ditch that shit in a heartbeat. But that's their business. That's not mine. And that brings us to the subject of today's talk. Now, I would like to take today to discuss some of the differences between the SJW behavior that is rampant in the LGBTQIA, AK47EIEIO, and sometimes Y community. And I'm going to start off with the whole idea of all that crap being a community itself. It ain't. If you're familiar with sociology, even in passing, I'm sure that we've each heard of Dunbar's number. Now, Dunbar, after studying various primate groups, including humans, came to the conclusion that we could only hold roughly right about 150 stable relationships, just casual acquaintances, anything like that, because other than that, you really don't really get to know people, except and as in the case of an abstract sense. You don't get to know anything about their ambitions, their character. You don't get to know about their values. They're just faceless others. And that's not a bad thing, and it's not a fault in humanity. It's just how we happen to evolve. And well, that brings me to my next bit here. I'm sorry if you can't tell by now. I'm speaking off the cuff today. I didn't have time to get something together and plenty of thought, so just roll with it. All right, you'll do fine. So when it comes to communities, there was a question that came up between my mother and I today when we were discussing GigTow. Because, well, her being the mother of barbarians, she wants to know what's going on in our lives. And, well, we have a very great relationship where I can be honest and upfront about this kind of thing. And her thoughts were, well, it's about fucking time. You see, I wasn't always GigTow. When I came out, I thought I'd found community and all this kind of stuff, and quite frankly, no, I didn't. What I found was the fact that I had been told there was this huge community where everybody was looking out for everyone else, and wasn't it just wonderful? It ain't so. Now, since that time, I'm not so naive. I've gotten to meet the other members of our tribe, which I'm sorry, they're not my tribe. We'll get to why here in a minute. And what I can tell you is this. First off, some lesbians are great. I mean, I have some friends that are very excellent women who happen to love women. I'm fine with them. And there's a lot of them that are shit too. A lot of them with a mess in their lives that they have brought on themselves, and they expect us to go clean up for them. Or expect me to at least side with them on their little tirades. Likewise, I know trans people. As in actual transgender people. I don't know anyone that identifies with being a Starbucks coffee cup or anything like that, and quite frankly, don't care to because, well, that kind of mentality does not appeal to me, and I wouldn't want it anywhere near me. But I do know actual transgender people, and some of them, oh my god, are some of the nicest, sweetest, kindest people that I'll ever meet. And then there's some that are an absolute and utter mental train wreck that I really don't want to be around because I do not want that in my life, and they want no part in doing anything to fix it. And the same can be said for gay people. A few of us, are actually my friends, and quite frankly, there are several that really don't give a shit. They're all about aggrandizing themselves and basically screwing everyone else over, both figuratively and literally, for their own benefit. So what I'm getting at is this whole idea that they're somehow this group of multiple others, let alone the clown car of them that have been tacked on over the years, are somehow my community. I'm sorry. It's not true. These are people that have one, maybe two attributes in common with me, and the rest, I got nothing. We don't have the same interests. We don't share the same values. And just really don't see any kind of need to base my life around white knighting for these people. So, I know it's a horrible thing to say, but I'm going to go ahead and lay out some facts here. The fact is, currently, 2018, there's a little over 7 billion people on this planet. Of that number, the vast majority of them have never heard of me, never will. And if they do hear about me, the bulk of them, it's going to be in the guise of some random stranger that lives in some exotic far-off place like, the Appalachian Mountains. And for them to expect them to care about me is, quite frankly, a little bit on the egotistical side. Why should they? And there's nothing remotely special about me. Some may feel that, but I don't. I am just some fucking guy. And to sit there and expect me to white knight for people that I have no kind of affiliation to, that have no kind of loyalty to me, and even if they did, were loyal to me as a concept, not as an actual flesh and blood person, is again ludicrous. Now, we're going to take a moment and we're going to go back in time about, 2,000 years or so. And that was about the time that someone that frankly influences me to this day walked and lived and breathed. And naturally, I'm talking about Epictetus. Epictetus was one of the Stoic philosophers. And one of my favorite books is his training manual for new students called the Enchiridion. Now, the Enchiridion, it lays things out at the very beginning. I think the first couple of sentences really lay out the foundation of the type of philosophy that I follow. And it says basically that of all events that happen in your life, there are two categories. Things that are under your control and things that are not. And if you are focusing on things that are under your control, you're basically going to do great. But if you're focusing your efforts and your life and your morals and your standing and value as a person on things that are outside of your control, it's going to bring suffering. So what does this have to do with the whole feminism SJW thing that I'm so far against? Well, because the SJW thing is asking us first off to do something that's quite impossible. And that's to care more about faceless others that we will never meet, that have no kind of loyalty to us as individuals, and to put those ahead of our needs, our family's needs, our community's needs. Now, when I say that these people are nobodies, that doesn't mean that I wish ill upon them, because I certainly do not. But at the same time, those people have no bearing or impact on my life. And for me to sit there and base my life on, or my value as a person on their, on how they're doing, and to let everything that I care about go to shit, that's a recipe for suffering. That's a recipe for disappointment. It's a recipe for basically not being able to do anything because you're focusing completely on things that are outside of your control. So it's a recipe for feeling impotent. Now I want to take a look at some of the problems that are affecting our society here lately. I mean, first off, especially among men, and there are so many reasons for this, and I don't want to think that this is the only one. I'm not nearly that naive. But depression, suicide is a big thing, and suicide is typically brought down by prolonged, profound desperation. That feeling of impotence that you can't do anything in the world, that feeling of being trapped. And I don't want anybody to feel that. But the thing is, if you're basing your entire life on taking on fights that aren't yours, letting the things that do and should matter to you, like if you're lucky enough to have a good family, and by good I mean morally upstanding, kind people that look out for you, if you're willing to let that go to shit because you got to worry about those people that don't care about you, you're asking for pain. If you let your career go to shit because you feel some kind of guilt that you might be getting a job that someone else just needs to be represented in, well, you're asking to suffer. You're asking to suffer needlessly, and you're asking to suffer stupidly. And there are so many ways that this could apply. If you're willing to base your happiness on whether or not people that, for all they care, you can live or die, but if you're willing to throw everything away just so they can get what they want, you're going to have a bad time. I'm not asking anybody here to be hard-hearted, but I am asking that we consider being more selective with what we base ourselves on. So getting back to the words of Epictetus here about life being in things that are under our control and versus things that are not, that goes hand in hand with the way that I practice GGTOW. A lot of people, and I'm going to go ahead and narrow this down, and I'm going to say a lot of gay guys, once we come out with a vengeance. And I think that's kind of normal. I mean, it's a new toy, and we just run that shit into the ground. But the thing is, we take that one aspect of ourselves that we may have not been completely honest with ourselves about, and the mistake that most of us make is we build this whole fucking identity around it. It's gay this, gay that, rainbow this, rainbow that, gay, 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 gay. Shut the fuck up. I mean, is it an identity? Sure. Absolutely. If you're shallow, it is a perfect excuse for an identity. But I don't think most of us are. Let's take a look at our straight brothers. Quite frankly, I really think that straight guys get a lot of unnecessary shit. And they're great people. I mean, not all of them. Of course, some are shit. Same as some gay people are shit. But my point is that basically, they don't wake up and they don't go have a straight marriage and go to straight pride or get in their straight car and go to the straight bar. And no. Some are married, some ain't. They get up, they live their lives, they may go to the bar, but it is not the defining characteristic of their life. Is it there? Yeah, undeniably. But at the same time, it is not the defining characteristic. And that's what I'm trying to get at. Just like, let's talk a little bit. I mean, these SJW types, want to go on about privilege. All right, I'm going to lay some shit out. First off, I'm a male. Yeah, I actually have a penis, and I'm proud of having this. There is that. But the thing is, I didn't do it. It was circumstantial. Accident of birth. Who gives a shit? It's there. It's what it is. But it's not the sole defining characteristic of me. Now, I grew up in the Appalachian area. And, Grew up in poverty too. Did either of those have anything to do with my identity, who I am at the core? Some will say, oh yeah. I'll say, fuck you. Don't get any kind of moral superiority or self-satisfaction out of either of those. Don't feel any shame for it either. And the thing is, it's part of the backstory, but it's not what I need to focus on because, quite frankly, it belongs to that big blob of things in life that are not under my control. That's not what I've done with my life. That's not who I choose to be. And yeah, choosing to be is very important. Instead, those are aspects of my life, attributes, if you will. And they are not and should not be defining characteristics. If you're basing your life around any of those, if you think you're better because you're a certain race, or because you're gay, or because you're straight, or because you're from this area or that area, it's fine to be happy with those things, but it's really fucking shallow to base your entire identity and your sense of self-worth off of those. It's stupid. But that's the thing. The SJW mentality is that we are reducible only down to these attributes and whether or not they exist in a powered or disempowered state. Yeah, I still have trouble with that myself. The thing is, that's a very ridiculous, very much a simpleton's view of life. Sure, those many things like my race or my social background or my sexual orientation or whatever doesn't define me. Could if I let it. Could if I wanted to live life by what everybody else expected of me. But it doesn't. Because I want to be more. I mean, for the most part, with the exception of a few idiots, and again, those are nobodies, nobody cares. Instead, focus on what could sweeten up the deal for them. Good example is if you want to be indispensable at work, you get your ass out there and you make yourself indispensable. You take the tougher jobs. You take the more challenging assignments. You take the stricter deadlines and you push and you push and you push, and above all else, you deliver. You get a reputation as someone of competence that is going to get the job done regardless of, whatever cost it may have or how undesirable the assignment may be. And I can guarantee you that is going to make your employment a lot safer than getting some bullshit little HR or government regulation in there saying that they can't fire you because of that, because you're gay or whatever. Because that's bullshit. People don't fire competent, strong people that get the job done and don't drag their personal life all over the place like a dog dragging its ass across the carpet. Those are not the people that lose their jobs. It's the fuck ups and the people that basically make that the center of their existence and have no competence whatsoever. Those are the ones that are at risk because they are the ones that bring nothing. I want you to be more than that. So, I guess that gets us to the end of today's talk again. This one was off the cuff, so it lacks a lot of the polish that mine normally do. But the big takeaways, that whole mass of things in life that are not under your control, worrying about those things is poison. It will make you feel defeated. It will make you feel defenseless. It will make you feel stretched completely thin, and it will not bring you happiness. But if you focus on the things that are under your control, if you focus on building the relationships that actually nurture and build you up if you focus on your own community instead of some idiot that can't seem to take care of themselves a couple of hundred miles away. And if you focus on taking charge instead of being a hapless victim, an object adrift in the sea of life, if you focus on those things, you are going to get stronger, you're going to get smarter, you're going to get wiser, and you're going to be a hell of a lot happier. And that's because you've taken control of your life. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close on that note. This is Feral Cat with Gig Tower Rants. Have a great day. Feral out.